Hello and welcome to the 23rd episode of the Extreme Sports Performance Podcast. My name's Ryan Blake, I'm the founder and CEO of Extreme Sports Performance. In this episode, I'm speaking to Justin Roethlingshoefer and Marc Schneider. Justin is a mentor, author and coach who is founder of R16 Lifestyles and the Hockey Summit. Marc is a surgeon, author and founder of Diazyme Sports Supplements. This episode is a little bit different to normal ones. There's no script as such, it's much more freestyle, but we have an awesome conversation about the new book they're just about to launch called The Athletic Performance Blueprint. Really enjoyed talking to these guys, hope you enjoy listening to it. Here we go. Justin, Marc, welcome to the Extreme Sports Performance Podcast. I'd just like to get you to introduce yourself and tell the listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do. Justin, can we start with you, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, first off, thanks for having us on. It's great to be here. Obviously, we're on the other side of the pond, but it's always nice to be able to share our content with everybody. Having a reach around the world is a beautiful thing about technology. I'm currently based in New York City, and I run a company called R16 Lifestyles, which focuses on the health, performance, and mindset of CEOs, celebrities, and professional athletes. I work exclusively with about 25 players between the American Hockey League and the NHL with another company I founded, which is the Hockey Summit. Really just focus in on habits, tendencies, and overall lifestyle that people are living to optimize their performance in everyday life, as well as sport, if that's applicable to them. Prior to coming to New York City, I was the strength and conditioning coach for the Anaheim Ducks and San Diego Gulls. I was the assistant in Anaheim and the head in San Diego, and I was there for about 2.5 years. And prior to that, I was at Miami University with their hockey program as director of sport performance, and came from the University of Louisville prior to that. So definitely been in different ranges of sport, from the NCAA to pro sports, and both at the American League and NHL level. And ultimately saw a lot of different things, and in terms of athletic development, in terms of habits, in terms of lifestyles, and being able to bring all that together and optimize it for everybody has been not only a puzzle but also a lot of fun. And there's been mentors in there from Mark Fitzgerald and Don Saladino to Charlie Weingrove and Brajesh Patel that have ultimately shaped the way that I do things and shaped the way that I get my message across, and it's been an awesome journey.
Awesome. Well, thanks for that very interesting and detailed insight, Justin. Hockey's a new sport for me, so it's great to be able to talk to someone with such extensive knowledge about it. Marc, would you mind just giving us an introduction to who you are and what you do?
Sure, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. I'm a surgeon by trade. I've been in private practice for about 28 years. If surgery wasn't enough to occupy my time, I've been involved in sports development through my children. Myself, I played rugby while I was in college, participated in a number of sports, not at Justin's level. When the kids became interested in ice hockey, I became interested in trying to help them with their development. Went around and invented a padding which we had patented to decrease concussions in sport. And then as the kids got a little bit older, got interested in sports nutrition, I myself was training with them and didn't see any significant difference from the nutrition that we were taking or buying at a variety of stores. And frankly, couldn't understand why. Did a ton of investigational research into the medical literature and found that a lot of supplements should absolutely work. And just became enthralled with the whole idea of science and sports nutrition. And so we started creating supplements at home for myself and for the kids. Found out sort of the dirty secret behind the supplement industry, in that a lot of manufacturers, or the vast majority of manufacturers, don't put all the active ingredients in their products. And lo and behold, when you do, the things actually work. I was introduced to Justin through a mutual hockey friend while he was at the University of Miami, and we were just starting to produce some supplements, my son and I, together with a company that we co-founded called Diazyme, and really enjoyed Justin's approach to training athletes. Working with him, he liked what we were producing, and when he implemented the training center called the Hockey Summit, which happened to be located in our hometown, we got involved as a company and individually at trying to help the professional athletes and working with them with their supplementation. Justin and I speak all the time, and in doing so, we had talked about all the information that is out there. I guess what in the States you call bro information, stuff you hear from guys in the gym, was completely inaccurate in most things. And so Justin's approach to training and my approach to science, we decided to get together and write a book on what's really involved in athletic development for individuals and best approaches for dealing with that.
Fantastic. Again, thanks very much for that bio and insight. Again, it sounds like you've had a very interesting career. You'll also be pleased to know that there's a lot of bro science going on over in the UK as well, particularly in corporate health and wellness facilities. It happens everywhere, and the amount of times I've heard people have conversations about things which couldn't be further from the truth, I've had to bite my lip. So it's not just in America, trust me, it happens over here all the time as well. So this book you guys have written called The Athletic Blueprint, could you first of all tell us what it's about and why you wrote it?
For sure. So the Athletic Blueprint really, the name states it, it's a blueprint that helps give you a plan to create and optimize the natural gifts you've been given as a human to optimize your athletic development. So, and what I mean by that is obviously there's different attributes within athletic development, from speed and power to pure strength to a conditioning event, whether it's aerobic or anaerobic. There's flexibility and mobility, there's stability all within there. And what happens is quite often people are like, there's so much going on, I don't know what I should focus on, or I don't know what I should do. And quite often it's, well, let's identify the weakest link in our system and try to get better at that, instead of taking what is so natural to you and what you do really, really well and maximize that characteristic. Now, that doesn't mean that we forget about everything else and we leave you with a major imbalance and a huge injury risk. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is that you start to take that strength that you have naturally, that God-given talent, and maximize it to ultimately maximize your athletic potential. Taking, for example, somebody who has extremely fast twitch muscle fibers, and they've got a 35 to 40 inch vert, a 110, 115 inch long jump, and can, in terms of a gym aware or speed analysis on the bar, can move their body weight well over 1.5 meters per second. So they are explosive, like an explosive athlete. And they're like, well, I'm playing soccer and my overall conditioning isn't very good. Well, you know what? Let's find ways that we can maximize your strengths to help you with that conditioning realm, rather than go and blunt all of the other characteristics that you're so good at in order to just be able to run at a longer duration, something that obviously isn't going to help you unless you're wanting to train for a marathon. And we would suggest that, knowing as coaches, not to direct that type of athlete to be a marathon runner. So ultimately what the book does is it takes and breaks down the spectrums, which is really kind of helpful. It breaks down the spectrum of athletic development across every single sport, across every different somatotype, across every different power and strength potential, and creates this blueprint of how to do it and how to maximize your talents to see the best results as an athlete.
Fantastic. Thanks for that insight, Justin. Mark, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Sure. When coming up with the book, I really looked back on what it took me as a parent without a sports training background to really try and help my kids. So back in, I would say it was early 2000, I was scouring the internet going, my goodness, my son is unbelievably slow. I don't understand it. It doesn't match what everybody else in the family has. No one who I've brought him to from training development can really tell me how to make him faster, and what they've been doing, what they've tried to implement isn't making him necessarily faster. So I started scouring the internet and learning terms and different things such as plyometrics and overspeed training, and there was no program, there was no authority, there was no encyclopedia that I could go to and say, how do I make a kid who wants to play hockey faster? Or how can I make a kid, my daughter, who was very gifted with her hands but very ungifted with her feet, how can I make her a better athlete? So what I tried to do with Justin in the book is really give a reference background for people at all different levels, from a trainer who's looking for specific information to a parent who's looking for a guide, to search in the right direction and to see what is necessary to improve the athlete.
Fantastic. So if someone asked you who was the main audience for this book, or who would you say it was ideal for, would there be a simple answer to that, or is it quite multidimensional?
I think it's multidimensional. I think there's information in the book that is going to be beneficial for everyone, from the novice involved with training to the athlete who's looking to make themselves better, who's not involved in an elite program, to parents who are looking after their kids. So we really try to be somewhat broad in terms of the audience that we were directing it to.
I think Doc hit it on the head there, where he said it's general enough in terms of information that anybody could understand it, but the education that goes on during the book really enhances their full understanding for the athletic development process, and ultimately gets you to a point of understanding where, whether you're doing it for your child, yourself, people that you're coaching, you can get a lot of knowledge and practical, usable information that you can take immediately from reading the book to then going and implementing it same day.
To give a simple example, let's say, for example, you're interested in becoming a faster sprinter. What is in the book is what's necessary to sprint, how it affects the different muscle fiber types, how different exercise will affect those specific fiber types. So, if you're someone training for sprinting and you're out running 5 miles a day, just long distance, you'll understand the science behind why that isn't going to benefit you. that there's a different training mechanism in there that would benefit you. And different things like that are throughout the book.
Fantastic. So would you mind just giving us an overview of the different chapters that the book consists of and what each of those chapters might touch upon?
Yeah, absolutely. So the book is broken down, again, from the very beginning. We kind of go over all what athleticism really consists of. And it gives a really general and broad outline of what that looks like. And then we kind of get into the overall understanding and a little bit more of applied knowledge from understanding muscle, what the power, strength, flexibility, aerobic, anaerobic, and ultimately recovery training looks at, and how it affects muscle and how muscle changes. Because ultimately that's what we're always wanting to do, is change muscle, change the makeup, change the physiology of it. And so if we can understand how that happens and the science behind it in a very short 10 pages, then it's going to give us the knowledge needed to have more of the applied knowledge. Then we go into more of like the body types, the somatotypes that there are within endomorph, mesomorph, ectomorphs, the anthropometrics, and a somatotype guide to training, which leads us into the genetics and how genes change ultimately what we can end up doing and creating within physiology. Then we go into, again, the science behind muscle performance and how exercise affects muscle, the different areas of training that we are doing: overspeed, sprint training, strength training, resistance training, and ultimately how we see the difference there. And then there's ways that we are able to measure that. So we now have a tangible feel. I wrote a book before called Intent that really talked about how you build a high performance model with testing, analyzing, retesting, and having quantifiable information. So it kind of touches on a lot of that in that chapter. And then we get into the mental aspect of it. We actually had a sports psychologist, Kate Allgood, who works with Hockey Canada and the Anaheim Ducks on a sports psychology level, commit to us for that chapter, and she did an amazing job looking at the science of focus and understanding and attention to performance and training and motivation, resilience, all those things that as much as we don't think they're teachable, they really are, and can be brought into that training effect. And then nutrition and recovery, just how those affect what it is we're doing. And then we get into the real nuts and bolts of the book, which is all about training the athlete and giving those different levels of training and break it down really very uniquely in a way that no book's ever done that, from giving spectrums of training and breaking everything down into zones. And we did it from a red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple zone along the spectrum as to where you would fall in each of those categories that we speak about at the beginning of the book, from the areas of athletic development. So it basically takes you through a step-by-step process of areas that you need to focus on if you want to be a certain type of athlete, and where you as a natural fit fall into.
Fantastic. Mark, is there anything you'd like to add to what Justin said?
No, I think Justin was very comprehensive in outlining the different parts of the book.
I've noticed that in the table of contents, the nutrition chapter goes into quite a lot of detail about particular supplements. Would you mind just giving us a little bit more information as why you felt that was necessary?
I feel that supplements for the average individual are truly not necessary, and it's become an industry of shiny labels, false claims, and great marketing. And for the average individual who is out there, who's going to the gym a couple of days a week and just trying to stay in shape for their overall health, If they're eating well, that's probably all they need. For a high-level athlete or someone who's trying to become a high-level athlete or have significant gains in their body, sports supplementation offers an improvement. It's what we call ergogenic, meaning that it will aid high-level performance if it's used properly. And so many things out there promise to be ergogenic in the sports supplement field, and they're not. What you call, Ryan, the gray area, we have bro science over here, indicates that. So I felt it was very important, Justin as well, to try and lay out the science behind supplementation and nutrition. Nutrition, I think, is key. Most people don't understand macronutrients, micronutrients. In fact, I didn't know what they were, in medical school. No one really taught it at all. It's something that I've had to educate myself on. And I think it's important for people to understand that supplementation can be a useful tool when used appropriately. And we tried to give a guide as to what works and what doesn't work. And frankly, stay away from what doesn't work. There's no benefit to it. And if you're trying to use something that does work, there's certain ways that you can benefit from it.
I noticed that you put the nutrition chapter towards the end of the book and covered all of the kind of finite details of specific training first. And this is obviously a message that I like to give a lot to my athletes I work with. I work with a lot of youth athletes across many different sports, and they range from 12 to 18 years old. And they always like to do things backwards, I find. So they always find, first thing they always try and do is try and get all these supplements and to start taking them before they've done any training. So, and that's purely based on just poor education and what their friends have told them or what they've seen on social media. So it is a bit of an unfortunate inverse relationship for me. So it's good to see that you've kind of covered everything, including nutrition, but that's kind of towards the end, rather than the training aspect is more towards the front end of the book. I mean, was that intended, or was that just the way that you kind of ended up laying out everything?
I think Justin and I look at nutrition differently than the average individual. I think we both look at it as an absolute key crux for the athlete. If they're not given proper nutrition before they train, proper nutrition for recovery, you're not going to get the most out of that individual. Justin dealt with that on a day-to-day basis with his professional athletes in Anaheim and San Diego and University of Miami. I saw it in my own children when they were training, and myself when I was training with them. I think it has a specific role, but the supplement industry has just become an enormous $30 billion industry in the U.S. And, the vast majority of it is promoted to individuals who, like you said, Ryan, think they're just going to go into a shop, get a bunch of supplements, and suddenly be turned into Superman. And it doesn't work that way. So I think we put it where we did in the realm of chapters is as to where we see it. It's important, but I think this other science behind training is far more important for the individual's goals.
I think a big thing that we need to hit upon there and really kind of key in on, and I think this is why Doc and I did this as well, was because Doc owns a supplement company, and although everything that we develop within it and that we aim to focus on within the supplements that we produce is that A, they work, B, they're scientifically tested, C, they are third-party tested through informed choice and certified through all the necessary means. But we're also not pushing that. Like, if you heard from Doc on 2 occasions, he said, 1, that A, supplements aren't needed for the vast majority of people, and 2, that we put it in the later parts of our book in terms of education because the fundamentals need to be there first. It's like if anybody knows what it's like to, from a just straight nutrition process, is if you're going and having fast food 9 times a week and you're like, oh, I need to take my multivitamin, do you think that's actually getting you anywhere? Or, hey, I need to sleep more, so I'm going to actually get a 30-minute nap this afternoon, but I only sleep 4 hours a night. Like, it's never going to be enough to supplement what is actually needed in order to succeed. And so I think that's a key that we should hone in on here, is that as good and as positive as they can be for you, your whole structure and rhythm of how you train and recover needs to be on board.
Awesome. Great insights, guys. Much appreciated, and that's very clear, which I think is important, especially with people who may not know lots about this stuff, because they can very easily get lost in the detail. So would you mind just telling us and the listeners about how all of the things in the book can be applied, and how you'd go about implementing that into your training or other people's training they would be working with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the biggest thing is it creates individualization. So because we based it off somatotype, everybody falls into 3 types of somatotypes, either an endomorph, mesomorph, or an ectomorph. Mesomorph being kind of your athletic body type, your endomorph being a little bit thicker, a little bit on the heavier side, and an ectomorph being somebody who has a hard time putting on weight, somebody who's just kind of naturally skinny. And so as we identify those 3, we can figure out nutrition, which is based on calorical intake, requirements, and macro breakdown that you need to take in for those individuals, because that's individual on its own, and then a guide to training those types of individuals. So you're going to have to do something different with each one based upon their goals and what they're trying to attain. And once we identify that, then we can figure out, okay, based upon your body type and the type of athleticism you're looking to gain, where do we go from there? And then that, again, creates a step-by-step guide of where we need to fall into place within those training categories, from resistance training to strength and power to conditioning, anaerobic, aerobic, flexibility, stability, mobility, and apply it accordingly. And ultimately, that's going to give us the largest results. The issue we run into is when we're trying to train and we don't have a clear, focused path. And if we don't have clarity, we can't develop a plan. If we don't have a plan, we're throwing darts in the dark. And when we're throwing darts in the dark, it's all great until somebody gets poked in the eye. And so it might work for a little while because we're getting lucky, or the beginning of a training phase and you're just seeing changes as it is. But when you're actually comes down to it, if we don't have a plan and we don't have clarity, we're never going to be able to attain the results that we ultimately want.
So when and where is the book available from, guys?
So it's available right now for pre-order on Amazon.com. It's going to be released January 2nd. And it's going to be available after that date in paperback as well.
And I believe you guys are having a launch event for the book.
Yeah, it's going to be on January 12th. It's going to be at Lululemon, New York City, so right on Broadway, their flagship store. And we're going to do it in conjunction with Physio Strength New York City, and they're going to come and do a flexibility mobility class before for about 20-30 minutes, and then Doc and I'll talk about the book, kind of give some information about what's in it, and have a little Q&A, and obviously having the people there from Physio Strength is going to add a lot of great content to what we're doing as well with the Q&A, and then just a little social after with free food and drinks, and give a couple of book giveaways, and it's going to be really cool. So again, that's January 12th at 1 p.m. at Lululemon in Soho. They're flagship store in New York City, right on Broadway. So if you're in New York City or you're interested, again, by all means, free event. Come on in and get some more information and have a little bit of fun with some like-minded people.
Sounds awesome, guys. And unfortunately, something I'm not going to be able to go to, but I wish you all the very best of luck with it. I hope it goes well. If people wanted to find out more about the book, is there a particular resource or website they could go to look?
It is on Amazon.com right now. If you go to the Kindle store, you'll be able to find information on the book now.
Fantastic. And if people wanted to find out a little bit more about yourselves, guys, and maybe get in touch with you directly, what's the best way that they could do that?
Absolutely. So I can be reached through my Instagram at innerstrength1988. That's innerstrength1988. So I just gave away my birth year, so now everybody knows how old I am. And then they can also reach me at thehockeysummit.com or r16.com.
And Mark, how about yourself?
Best way to reach me would be through Diozyme website, which is diozyme.com. That's spelled DIOXY, M as in Mary, E.com.
Okay, brilliant. I'll make sure I put that link into the show notes too. Any final things you'd like to share with the listeners, guys, about anything?
I think the biggest thing is anything that you do with your athletes or your training clients or whoever it is that you work with, be sure that you always have a plan. Be sure you always have clarity before you enter into anything. Because once you start with somebody, there's a large amount of trust that people put into you in terms of what they're trying to attain. And if you go in without that sense of clarity, then there creates this foggy picture of where that end goal is. And starting off, there might be a lot of excitement and passion behind it, but as the journey continues without a path, a plan, and clarity, it becomes very easy to go down roads that you weren't willing to travel. And it's always easier to change what you're doing if you know what your path is, and without it, it's easy to get lost.
Fantastic. Mark, do you have any final insights you'd like to share?
Ryan, I'd just like to thank you for having us on the show. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I think everyone just has to be aware that there's alternative information out there that's going to help them with their training. And, knowledge is power, and utilize it wisely.
Fantastic. Well, I'll make sure I put a link to the book directly on my website so people can get to it from there as well. But please stay on the line, guys, whilst we end the recording. But I'd just like to say, it's great to have met you guys, and thanks very much for coming on. And best of luck with the book. I hope everything goes really well with it, and I wish you all the success.
Awesome, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the 23rd episode. We hope you enjoyed the show. Please leave us a rating and or review on whichever platform you're listening on. Please check out our website, www.extremesportsperformance.com. On our media page, we have weekly blogs that include Thought of the Week, Exercise of the Week, Recipe of the Week, and Training Song of the Week. Each month's collection gets compiled into our monthly newsletter along with company service and store updates. You can sign up for free to receive this via our subscribe page. Our online store consists of training programs, online and in-person coaching, nutrition plans, toolbox, and interactive training systems. Please follow us on our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Links to these can be found at the bottom of every page on our website or via any search engine. That's all for now. Until next time, take care.